Are we good? Alright, awesome. So, yeah, I just saw this in my recommended.
Watching partway through, but I want to give every video a shot. So anyway, let's get started with this one.
I
We are playing the scariest game of
Oh, is he just
all
playing it?
creation.
Oh fuck, this hasn't aged well at all. This is fucking awful.
Probably never heard of it. It's called Five Nights at
Please stop. Why is he delivering the line like this?
Freddy's. Here we go.
The audio oh my god. It's the worst audio mixing I've ever heard.
He's like trying to sell it so hard. It is oh this is before he became like even had like boomer energy. This is awful.
Wait, what the fuck?
It's camera.
What? Oh.
The camera came up. Oh, was that a bunny? Was that a bunny? I think it was a bunny.
So this is the game I played. I remember playing this game.
Oh my gosh. I am so scared right now. Oh god!
This is not good. Oh.
There's only a fan.
Pat, shut the fuck up,
There's only a
please.
fan. Only a fan.
And I'm pretty sure you can look left and look right and then look at the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I have never played a game this intense.
This is not aged well at all.
Okay, I'm gonna actually end it all, Matt Pat.
He's saying what we're all thinking.
I cannot handle the static being 8,000
Oh.
times louder than your quiet voice. I can't handle it.
God, shut the doors, shut the doors, shut the doors. Oh, please don't see me, please don't see me, please don't see me, please don't see me.
The fuck is he doing?
I'm so scared right now.
This is awful.
I'm so scared. Can you tell how scared I am right now?
This feels like a theater student made this. And Matt Pat's a theater student. So that is very telling.
Okay.
I'm gonna put my laptop up here. What the fuck?
I actually can't watch it. I actually
God
can't watch it.
damn it.
I can't watch it. I can't watch this. Out of context, it just looks like he's coming. I can't watch. That's crazy. That's great. Let's get to the game.
He does. He really does. Oh no. To be fair, he probably is. This man's whole channel is this game. I mean, he does a damn good job covering it though. Let's be honest. I mean, he knows what he's doing. I
Game
can't be
theory,
mad
go,
at it.
go.
You know, but doing that on camera, don't do that on camera. Do that off camera, like everyone else. Okay, cool. This is Olden. Oh my god! Look at it. He's like moseying. How do I not remember this? You guys hear that? Is it playing through my... It's not. My fans are going on my computer. I don't... Man, this computer is such a... Oof. Can't use that word. Snowflake? Yeah. It was a blur.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, where fear is our middle name. Math.
He used to do these fucking corny one-liners. When I was a kid, I had no idea what he was saying. I'm like, is this like an inside joke? Does anybody know what he's talking about? I don't know what he's talking about. I hope and pray this is funny for someone. Anybody know what... Like, like it would always be related to the video he's doing it on, but it would be like a one-liner that if you are new to this thing, you would have no idea what he's talking about. It would just be a one-liner for people who have been here before, you know? They've been around the Five Nights folk before. That's a way of putting it. That is quite the way of putting it. Gotta put my Invisalign in.
Fear Patrick.
Sick.
It's a very strange name.
It is a strange name.
Okay, I'll admit it. I didn't give Five Nights at Freddy's enough credit when it first came out. A few jump scares from creatures that, aren't that scary. People overreacting
Should really
to
mute
it
for
on
this,
YouTube.
but I don't feel like it.
Meh.
So,
Ass. But then when I asked you about it,
I should
you
really
showed
mute for this.
overwhelming
I
support
don't
for
feel
an
like it.
episode on the game on Twitter, so I began to dig a little deeper. Deeper, and what I found was some of the most
Suffer.
interesting storytelling, most intriguing mysteries, and most disturbing events I'd read about in a long
That was
time.
uncalled for.
Now, if
It's
you-
I'm so
crazy
sorry.
that if a bunch of people on Twitter didn't tell him to watch Five Nights at Freddy's lore or like play the game again to discover the lore, his life would be so much different. Because I feel like Matt Pat has a lot of different successes, but Five Nights at Freddy's like the fucking shit he's known for.
If you were just to play the game straight through 5 days, the story would actually come across as pretty superficial. You're the new night guard watching the
Oh
security
my
cameras
god, it's the old drawings.
at a Chuck E. Cheese style restaurant called
Yeah, in this! He still uses that. He still uses that. What the
That's what I.
Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Yes.
4 animatronics roam
Yup.
the halls at night because the owners don't want them.
Did you know it's actually not at all about the security guard? That's just the first games. Then Scott was like, boy, wouldn't it be wildin' if we would take all this stuff and make it as in the games, they were games that this rogue developer, put my face up there, it'll be a funny joke. He made all those games as a scary story so that the Purple Bunny Man wouldn't get outed, and um wait, is that so the Purple Bunny Man actually no, it's not at all. What? Well, you make these games as games in the games, and then I don't know why I'm pointing. I don't. That's very unnecessary. Essentially, Scott Cawthon is a character in his own game series to make games, which are these first four, to cover up the story of what actually happened there, and then the story goes on from there because that's what like is happening in the world of the Five Nights universe, which is weird. It's weird. This was a perfectly fine story up to 4, and then it just becomes something that it probably was never fit to be. So, yeah. And we continue.
Their servos to lock up.
Purple
Bad
one and the
news
yellow
is,
one.
You can't let them near you, or else they'll kill you on the spot
Yes.
because you look like a naked endoskeleton. Ow, ow! Show them those circuits. A pair.
Ah! Oh! Oh, that's... Ow, ow. Show them those circuits. Hey, look, it's Ollie. I'm sorry. That's his kid's name. It literally looks like his kid. That is so weird.
Apparently, one of them bit someone back in 87, presumably 1987. And the past guard leaves you recorded phone messages to act as your tutorial. That is,
What the fuck is this music?
as much as he could record before he got himself killed. And that's it. Stay 5 nights, collect your paycheck, done, game over, play something new. But playing it that way is doing the game a huge disservice.
Wait, that's what I did. Okay, see that. This is literally, he just recapped what I recapped all I know about Five Nights at Freddy's. And now he's saying I'm a big dumbass for that. Okay.
Because that's not even scratching.
Why is everybody spamming the bite of 87? Is this a meme? Was that the bite of 87? What is it?
The surface. If you're really
Was that the bite of 87? It's Markiplier 2014. He goes like, was that the bite of 87? What?
observant,
That's the
you
meme.
start to unravel the layers of unsolved mysteries around this place. You find that there's a fifth animatronic, that posters on the wall will change randomly, that news clippings appear
Me too, Ludwig. Me
and
too.
disappear, telling the dark secrets of this twisted place. Putting it all together, here's
It's
the
a
rest
tragedy?
of the story. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, once a popular restaurant, fell into hard times when 5 children went missing there after being lured to a back room by a man dressed in a character costume. Though a suspect
His reaction.
after
Look at
being
his face.
lured to a back
Look at his
room
face.
by a man dressed in a character costume.
What the fuck is that
Though
face
a
he's
suspect
making?
was caught and convicted, the bodies of the children were never recovered. The pizzeria was also threatened with shutdown due to sanitation complaints.
I'm sorry. An employee dressed as a character lured 5 kids and murdered them, and they almost got shut down due to sanitation complaints? Our priorities are backwards. Who gives a fuck about the
Well, I mean,
sanitation, buddy? Those are very. One is much bigger deal here. It
He makes a
almost
good
got
point.
shut. That's crazy.
All odors started to come from the animatronics, blood and mucus oozing from their eyes and mouths. The last article, written years after the incident, states that the pizzeria would finally be closed by year end. In addition to the core 4 robots, Chica, Bonnie, Freddy, and Foxy, there's also a
Chica, Bonnie, Freddy, and Foxy.
fifth, unofficially referred to as Golden Freddy.
Now called Fredbear. They changed the name entirely. Don't know why. Back in this era, he would have still been Golden Freddy. Even after the 4th game, it was implied that it was supposed to be Fredbear, because they changed it. They changed it later. So, we didn't know who this was. We had no idea who this was.
Ignoring the rules of physics, Golden Freddy appears and disappears at will, can inexplicably travel through doors, wherever, causing strange hallucinations. And when he attacks you, you're not taken to the typical game over screen, your game crashes. So that's unsettling. And there's also strange
Golden
messages
Freddy.
appearing on the walls.
Oh, wait, what? I have never seen this. What is... Oh, what is this back here? I didn't know it was written on the wall. I thought it was written, like... Oh, weird.
The words, "It's me." According
And there's, like, a rare Freddy poster that
to the game's creator, the place
happens.
is
Scott Cawthon. There's an explanation for why the characters are haunted, but it's hidden within the game.
indeed haunted by what we can only assume to be the spirits of the 5 lost children. So
The children who were murdered are the 5 animatronics. So one of the kids had to be like really special or something, or murdered in a unique way. Is that why he's a special golden bear? Okay.
that's the gist of it. Murder, missing children, foul odors, killer robots, and
Later called the one you shouldn't have killed. I think. Which is very, very weird, because it's heavily implied that it's Golden Freddy. But then it turns out to be like the puppet, and apparently those two are the same person, but also not. Somehow it's like saying God is also Christ Jesus. They are the same person, but they're also not. but somehow told in way less of an understandable fashion. Not like, oh, well, you see, God made all souls, and so Christ, although he is a man, his soul is the same soul as God's, which is why they're the same person, but technically separate, you know? So, my issue is that I don't know why I had to reach so much to get that. My issue is that it doesn't go into enough detail. It's really weird. It's just both as separate individuals or both together are the one you shouldn't have killed, which is really weird.
Pizza.
Really
That
weird.
story leaves a
I really
lot of
should stop
lingering
pausing.
questions. Who is your character? How's he fit in? Why does he stay for 5 nights when he's very clearly confronting
For
the possibility
paper.
of death? What
For that-
more can we know about this
We're trying to go
terrifying
band for
Golden
band.
Freddy?
Stack
And
it
most
up.
importantly, what is the complete story behind Five Nights at Freddy's? They're all good questions about a delightfully incomplete and mysterious story with just enough threads to keep you theorizing. So now, if you'll indulge me, let me reciprocate that story with one of my own.
I indulge
think
you.
you'll find it interesting. December 1993, Aurora, Colorado. 10 p.m. Tuesday night at a local Chuck E. Cheese. After a family birthday party runs long, manager Margaret Kohlberg and teenage
No, this is a real
employees
story.
Sylvia Crowell, Ben Grant, Colleen O'Connor, and Bobby Stevens are forced to stay late to close the shop. But as Margaret tallies receipts in the back,
No, this is
Bobby
a real story
scrubs
that it's
down the
based on.
kitchen, and the other 3 work outside in the main arcade. Unknown to any of the 5, there's actually a 6th person locked in the building with them, waiting silently in the darkened restrooms. A 19-year-old named Nathan Dunlap.
Is this real? Is this
Yeah.
real?
That year,
Yeah,
Nathan
this is
had
real.
begun working there as a cook, dough master, before getting fired in July after a disagreement over his hours. Now, 5 months later, he was back.
Dude, is he just... He's talking about a murder case like it's a game lore dump. This is an actual...
It's an actual
dude.
murder, yeah.
I didn't know about this. Why does Aurora, Colorado get boomed so much? That's where the Batman murders were too, right?
The what? The Batman murders?
Know about this. Why does Aurora, Colorado get boomed so much? That's where the Batman murders were too, right?
Really? They were called that?
10:05, he left the bathroom, pulled out a small caliber handgun, and proceeded to execute everyone in the building. First Sylvia,
I
then
don't
Ben,
remember the story,
then Colleen. Dunlap then moved to the kitchen, where he surprised Bobby Stevens. The bullet entered Bobby's jaw, sending him sprawling onto the ground. Then finally, Nathan moved to the back, the office, where Margaret opened the safe before Nathan shot her twice, proceeded to grab her bag, filling it with $1,600 in cash, arcade tokens, and keychains. Spurred on by the building security footage, police were at his home a few hours later, where he was promptly arrested. Eventually, he was tried and sentenced to death, but his story re-entered the news just recently as his punishment has been postponed, leading people to debate whether he's able to sleep soundly, knowing that his execution has been delayed. This is a tragic story, a disgusting waste of human life, and one that I won't joke about or make fun of in any way, but I want to address it because I have a strong suspicion that this story is the one that inspired Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's look at the facts. First, I don't think that there's any doubt
Okay, because it was at a Chuck E. Cheese and 5 people were murdered, and there's 5 people who were murdered in the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, and there's 5 animatronics. I think I can connect the dots here. I'm not dumb.
I really don't
Freddy's
want to
is
have
a
to put it
parody
on
of
there right
Chuck E.
now. Come on.
Cheese. From the singing animatronics to the alliterative...
I feel like he's just going to say everything I just said, right? Like, I can just skip this.
When does he get to actual...
with your character's paycheck.
Faz
Each night you're working a 6-hour shift, and you're spending 5 nights there. So that's 30 hours of total work time for $120. In total, $4 an hour. How can they do that? That's below minimum wage.
Because it's the minimum wage of 1993.
2014. But in 19...
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's fucking... Freddy's Ultimate Timeline.
We end the torment. Today we end the torment. 19 books, 11 games, 8 whole.
I might need to mute. I'm gonna keep things playing in the background. Oh shit, you can't see what I'm watching. How the fuck didn't I know that? Oh, oh no. Damn it. Mm. Oh, what the fuck? Hello? What the hell is going on with this? What the fuck? Well, I'm gonna have to. Alright, I'm gonna have to. What? Huh? Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Okay. Add video. Cool. Alright. Wait, can I like. Oh. Well, that's dumb. But I can't like make it go the other way. Fuck. God damn it. Alright. Just put me up there. Cool. Let's see here. Scroll down. Neat. I'm gonna be playing this in the back. I'm gonna go get some food. Right. Doses.
Whole years.
19 books, 11. There's more books than games?
All leading to this moment. The ultimate FNaF timeline is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now all we have to do is put this story of tragedy, jealousy, and loss back together. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show
How are there 8 games? Is it all the same thing? Like,
that feels like a kid revealing the class project that he's been working on all year. Except here, it's the class project that I've been working on for the past decade of my life. This one is big, my friends, and I gotta admit, kinda nervous. I haven't attempted a timeline video on this franchise since 2018. Back in the days when Mike was the crying child, Afton coming back was actually a surprise, and Fazgoo wasn't a phrase I'd
what the fuck is any of that? What the hell did I just what is that? What is even that, man? How do we go from Colorado murder to Fazgoo? What's Fazgoo? Do the animatronics come? Is it their cum?
ever thought I'd have to utter. But since the last time I did something like this, we've had 3 more massive games, the death and revival of the FNaF movie, and more robot kids than you can shake a staff bot at. It is exhausting trying to keep track of this whole franchise, which honestly is why I'm here today. The lore at this point is complicated. It is
The way he talks. Sorry, I'm not trying to pause this much. It's just the way he talks makes me laugh.
full of speculation and theory. So to hopefully make it a little easier for everyone and to give us all a baseline to talk about this franchise moving forward into the future, it's time to reveal my current working FNaF timeline.
Okay.
But just before I do, I just want to explain a couple of things.
Sure.
First, this timeline is massive. Seriously, it is huge. This thing towers over any video project we have ever done on the channel.
Okay.
But when you look at the totality of this franchise, the story of FNaF really boils down to the story of one man, William Afton. His successes, his failures, his rise to becoming co-owner of one of the most successful restaurant franchises in the world, and his eventual fall to the monsters he helped to create, only to then be reborn in a new digital form later. That's
Okay, William Afton is the creator of Fozbear's Pizza or some shit?
why I've decided to split this timeline into 3 main chunks. The foundation of Freddy's, how the business started and how it came into being, the Afton era, William's decades-long murder spree, and post-Purple Guy. Basically modern FNaF. Everything that happens after the Pizzeria Simulator fire. And because there are lots of new big revelations in this thing that seemingly come out of nowhere, as well as just points I want to talk about further, I decided to dedicate 1 episode to each chunk. I originally wanted it to be one seamless, continuous video, but it just felt incomplete without some sort of explanation at the end of each one. Once this whole thing's done, I promise I'm gonna merge all the narrative bits into one massive video so you can just skip my explanations. But for now, this just felt like the best, most satisfying, most complete way to do this. That being said, this is still about the story, the broad strokes of the franchise. So in order to make sure that you guys know that I'm not just pulling answers out of thin air, not only am I discussing some of the more controversial bits at the end of each chunk, we're also putting in a handy little graphic in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which will show thumbnails, video titles, books, and any other citations that we need throughout the video.
Okay.
So if you wish to understand that specific statement in more detail, you know exactly where we've taken
That's
it
helpful.
from.
I
That way you can
appreciate
look
that.
into those details for yourself. So sit back, grab some popcorn, or your pitchforks if you're the type to get upset when I say something controversial.
That's
and
my chat right now. My chat, it's actually all pitchforks right now. You should have watched Wendigoon. You guys are actually cringe. Sorry, when you're actually getting your FNaF lore dump, could you please watch Wendigoon in his 6-hour video and not the MatPat game theory lore? It's actually incorrect, and I don't want you to get the lore incorrect because this is very important to me. I'm cringing. You're making me cringe. Get your popcorn. Put the sticks down. I'm cringing. Please.
Make sure that you subscribe, since this is going to be a video that you're going to want to come back to a few times in order to fully dissect.
Smart call out.
Without any more waiting, I present to you the story of a loving, obsessive father who slowly descended into madness, and along the way, discovered the secret to eternal life.
Why is that bunny kind of hot?
Our story begins not in the 1980s, or even in the 1970s,
The 60s.
but all the way back in the 1930s. It was the throes of the Great Depression, and people were in desperate need of cheap entertainment, especially in Utah, one of the states hit hardest, 4th highest unemployment in the nation, and full of transients. People looking for work in Salt Lake, finding none, and ultimately moving on to find their fortunes out in California. People were tired and they were hungry, but as they traveled, there was one thing that could lift their spirits. A simple roadside attraction called Fredbear's Singin' Show. The ads were plastered all over town, featuring an animated bear drawn in the popular pie-eyed cartoon style for characters at the time. He resembled cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. It immediately said that this, Fredbear's, was a place where you could bring the family. And the price, honestly, couldn't be beat. For 50 cents, you could get food and entertainment as you watched the local trained real-life dancing bear perform on stage. Normally, you only got to see dancing bears at large traveling circuses like Barnum and Bailey, where the tickets would go for about $1. That's $1 without food. But this was a smaller show, like the type from the Vaughn Brothers or the Robbins Brothers, where tickets would sell for just a mere 50 cents.
That's a great fucking deal. Bear and a dinner for 50 cents? Sign my family up.
Watching that bear do tricks on stage brought a glimmer of joy at a time when so much was wrong with the world. The simple show would go on for years, bringing happiness to hundreds of travelers
Thank you,
passing
Sleepy
through
Nar,
looking
for the
a quick
membership.
meal. But it left a permanent impression on one little boy,
William
capturing
Afton.
his imagination in a way that nothing
William
else
Afton.
had. One little boy named Billy. That was his nickname at
Willie
least, but
Billy.
his parents like to call him William. William Afton. The bear could dance, It could sing. For decades, William dreamed of recreating that moment of bringing a musical bear to life, but how? William was smart, without a doubt, and he had a keen mind for business, but he wasn't the most creative. How do you make a singing, dancing bear come to life? The best he could do was using rudimentary costumes. William was inspired by the work of Walt Disney, who throughout the 50s and 60s was pioneering the use of mascot suits throughout his theme park. The big innovation? Suits with 5 fingers. This allowed the performers wearing the suits to use their natural arms and hands to interact with the guests, as opposed to the older models where the arms would just hang limply by their sides. Finally, with a simple mascot suit, he would be able to realize his...
I'm sorry, this is a quick aside. I always love listening to like technological updates in like the 18 or 1900s because they sound so simple. It's like, oh, dude, we figured out that actually you need your hands. No. So what we figured out is that actually if you wash your hands before putting your hands into someone's body in surgery, it's better. Stuff that's like nowadays, like, yeah, no fucking shit. Back then, they're like, no, we actually solved this.
his childhood dream. He would be able to bring Fredbear to life. To appeal to the kids, and for copyright reasons, he changed Fredbear from a realistic brown animal to a cartoonish yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie. But feeling like one character wasn't enough, he added another friend, a yellow rabbit with a purple vest and matching tie named Bonnie the Bunny. While Fredbear was certainly his first love, Bonnie was extra special because that was his. It was an original character that he had created from scratch. And I do mean scratch. William's hand-sewn costumes were rough,
Thank you, Red River,
and
or Red
stitches
River,
visibly showing, but it was the best that he could do. And you know what? It was just enough. Bonnie and Fredbear would perform on stage to small but enthusiastic crowds. Finally, he was able to deliver fantasy and fun to all the kids, delighting and inspiring them in the exact way that he had been delighted and inspired so many years ago. And things could have ended there. That could have been the end to his story. It could have been
Opener
perfect,
Gaming, thank you for
had it
being
not
part of the
been
PC.
for one thing. Other people saw the success of his idea and they wanted in. Enter Chica's Party World, a rival restaurant starring performing animal characters. His idea, except they did it better. William may have been the first, but obviously he wasn't the best.
Why is he Madge? Like, yeah, they bit your shit, but you also bit somebody's shit. Like, Fredbear was literally a one-to-one copy. You just changed the color to yellow. He yoinked and twisted. A yoink and twister cannot be mad that somebody yoinked and twisted. It's just like... Plus, often imitated, never replicated. If you're the first to do it, that just means, like, people are biting your shit. You're on the right fucking path. Keep innovating, baby. I think this William guy has too much ego in his previous successes. Wasn't worried enough about innovating and keeping the successes rolling, you know?
It hurt the prideful William Afton to admit it, but this restaurant was able to do the thing that he always wanted to do. Make the animals actually come to life. All of the performers in this restaurant were robots. Simple metal skeletons that were powered by battery packs. But all of them able to freely turn and talk and dance on their own. No human required. It was like magic. Magic that came from the mind of a brilliant creator named Henry Emily. This Henry, in some small way, had been able to harness the power of life itself. Afton admired him. He was jealous, to be sure, but he also looked upon this man with awe. Off to one side of Chica's Party World was a small cabaret stage featuring an elephant magician. On the other, a hippo known to ramble on and on. That one was more of a joke for the parents, but it was the main stage that was for the kids. A rocking band of characters featuring a yellow chicken thing with a southern drawl named Chica, backed by a band of other country-themed characters, including a pig with a banjo, an upbeat frog from the local swimming hole, and a brown bear with a heavy southern accent. Wait, a bear? But bears were his animals. Why not a cow or a horse? Something to fit the country theme a bit better. Why did it have to be a bear? And adding insult to injury, they had the nerve to call this thing Ned Bear, a direct copy of his own Fredbear.
Whoops, that's gonna leave a mark.
No, that was not okay. Afton's jealous admiration
Okay, alright. You know what? That's a little more dog. That's a little more dog. Ned Bear is a little bit dog.
turned to hardened bitterness. A bitterness that would only grow over the next couple of years as families continued to choose Chica's Party World over Fredbear's. William just...
Okay, Fredbear. William Afton's little boy sees Dancing Bear, makes a place called Fredbear. Guy sees Fredbear, says, I can do it better, makes Chica's Party World, makes animatronics. His animatronics fuck, they go hard. Makes something called Ned Bear. William Afton gets really jealous because the other business is more successful. That's where we're at. Update. Great.
just couldn't compete with the appeal of the robots. Eventually, his restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by, of course, Henry Emily. Another insult, another humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget.
He was humiliated that he got. You could have just rejected the offer, but okay, he was humiliated. No, I guess I get that. That would be humiliating, right? Because they're the reason you're out of business, and now they're like trying to be like, oh no, we'll get you out of here for sure. That's fair. It does remind me of Walter White Breaking Bad when his business partner who cut him out of the deal offered to pay him out of his debt. And it's like, you don't really get to do that. That's like, and although it was prideful of Walter, and the show would have ended if he just took the money, I understand why he didn't.
1979. Despite being bitter, Afton couldn't deny that what came next.
It's not look, it's barely. We're talking like episode 5.
Next was a period of massive success and
That's not what happened. I've only watched 5 episodes, so I'm only explaining what I know. So now you guys are reverse spoiling by telling me what I know based off the first 5 episodes didn't happen. Stop spoiling, please.
expansion. With the two franchises now merged into one, it was the best of both worlds. Afton's ideas with Henry's robotic expertise. The two men decided to launch under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain that would eventually come to feature.
And he gets naming rights. And he's still Madge? Like, William, grow up. You got naming rights. Angela, think of the PC.
Mix of humans in performing suits as well as on-stage animatronics. They decided to stick with Fredbear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand and because he was the original performing animal mascot. Afton appreciated that. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged into one, with Pig Patch and Happy Frog performing right alongside Fredbear and Bonnie. And as part of this one big Fredbear family, they even got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks to magnets.
The crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet?
That said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre, so they faded away into the dumpster, storage units, and retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the limelight if and when a headliner went out of commission. Others, though, would fare much better, like a new Pirate Fox, as well as a blue guitar-playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately, the franchise would get so big, it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and Friends. Business was booming. In the end, Fredbear and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong that they would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends. In 1983, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza launched, giving a dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy Fazbear. Business was good.
Okay. So the original location has the Golden Bear, and that's Fred Bear's family, whatever. Then they made a spin-off called fucking Fazbear's fucking... And this is the game I know, is with these 4, right?
Afton was happy, mostly. It did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie, got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show. The only character in the roster of regulars to get ignored for the show, but...
He's actually so fucking whiny, I'm like getting annoyed, but go off, William.
Other than that, things were going smoothly. He had himself a wife, 2 sons, a daughter. He had a thriving business. And best of all, he was able to learn the craft of robotics from the man that he both loved and hated, Henry. Together, they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear. Eventually, Henry would design one of his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided mouth with either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This was the first generation of animatronics. But why stop there? Afton had big ideas. What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could freely roam the restaurant and interact with the kids?
That'd be
what
cool.
if his mascot suits could become animatronics? What if you could use more than just rigid metallic skeletons? Why not experiment with tubes and wires that would give the animatronics fluidity and flexibility while still providing structure?
I feel like you maybe enter an Uncanny Valley territory.
Possibilities for this technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics. He had started with a dream of bringing one one simple singing bear to life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was practically speedrunning his way to an engineering degree. And while William wouldn't admit it out loud, one other thing that kept pushing him forward was the desire to beat his former rival, to prove himself smarter and more capable, to surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary genius. But pride cometh before the fall, and tragedy was about to strike. Okay, so that brings us to the end of part 1 of the story. That
Okay.
said, at the end of each of these chunks,
I feel really good about part 1. I feel like I know fucking everything. And Henry Emily, I will say, sounds like the go. Chill ass dude. You know, fucking really, really crafted his own original place inspired by something. Then became partners with a person, I feel like unnecessarily. You know, he didn't have to do that. He could have been more ruthless. And then fucking brought him in, gave him naming rights, you know, showed him everything about how to make the sausage. Like, if you think about it, William Afton's like, dude, I like bear. And that's the end of, like, everything he is. He was basically a kid. He saw bear. He goes, I like bear. And then he made bear. And then he's like, what else do I make? And he's like, bunny. And then like what? And then what? And then he made a fledgling business that started failing. And he's like, but I made bunny. It's like, who gives a shit, dude? You like bear, you like bunny, cool. That's all you've done. Then you just try to bite off fucking Mickey Mouse. You know? Henry Emily actually fucking innovated a bit here.
I want to break down some of the logical leaps that I made, since the more narrative format doesn't give me much of a chance to justify a lot of the big decisions. And admittedly, there are some large leaps in here. Let's just start off with Fredbear's Singin' Show, shall we? We know,
Sure.
based on the retro poster that was hidden in Security Breach, that at least...
Should I skip this part? Everyone's saying, skip this part! Should I skip this part and just go to the next narrative and maybe come back? No, don't skip. Okay, so now you guys aren't in agreement. And now I am none the wiser. Why skip it? Because it apparently has spoilers? I don't fucking know. People are yelling at me. You guys just constantly yell at me. All I'm trying to do is just learn, right? And you guys hate that. You hate that people want to learn. Raider, thank you for the membership. Is this the second one? The Rise of Afton?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory,
Hello!
and officially page 7 of the FNaF timeline script. Last time we covered the origins of Freddy's. We talked about William Afton's childhood dream project of making a singing bear come to life,
Yes, we
and the
did.
infuriating moment that his dream is copied by a rival restaurant franchise looking to steal away his success. The merger of the two franchises results in William meeting Henry, a brilliant designer with a knack for robotics. Working together, they make Fredbear's flourish, spawning popular Saturday morning cartoon shows, toy lines, and spin-off restaurants under the Fazbear name. When last we left him, Afton was thriving, the world of robotics opening his eyes to new and exciting ways of bringing characters to life.
I decided I'm just going to watch all the narratives, and then I can watch the explanations after, and that's what I decided. And I won't change what I decided. But you can feel free to complain about it. And that is your right, and I actually like it. I mean that totally sincerely. Robot Wizard, thank you for the Twitch Prime.
Things to life. Yeah, that was his core driving force, his passion. And it was this very passion that would mutate, twist, and morph from here on out in the story. Because with life, there is inevitably death, something that Afton would become intimately familiar with. But before Afton acquaints himself with death, I want you to take some time to acquaint yourself with our newest channel. Guys, this is a huge moment for us theorists. For the last decade, we've had this 4-player control. Now, with our logo complete, it's time to complete our other massive ongoing project, this timeline. Onward to part 2, where things are about to get dark in a hurry.
Twitch Prime? Yeah, I got a Twitch Prime. Look. Robot Wizard, Twitch Prime. If you give me a Twitch Prime on Twitch, I'll see it, and I'll thank you. The Afton Era.
1983. Business was booming with 2 whole restaurant franchises running, Fredbear's Family Diner and the newly opened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Together, William and Henry had been able to take the hybrid suit idea and make it into a reality. They called their new invention the Springlock suit. And fittingly enough, it was symbolic of the partnership between these two men. A human suit as designed by William that could
Weird. Sorry. Something on my end. Switching between tabs. One of the tabs was like just the edge of Streamlabs. The tab Streamlabs on my computer is really weird. Anywho, Markiplier.
could become a freestanding
The only reason I paused.
Henry-style robot, but because it was still new tech with kinks to work out, the rollout was limited, restricted only to the Fredbear's Family Diner location. All of this meant that William was busier than ever. He didn't have time to be a full-time parent, so he designed a nanny cam system where cameras and speakers were hidden throughout the neighborhood, as well as in his youngest son's favorite toy, Psychic Friend Fredbear. I mean, plushy Fredbear. But since cameras just weren't enough to raise a kid, he also left childcare duties to his eldest son, Michael. There was just one problem with that. Michael was far from the best babysitter. He tormented his younger brother by jump-scaring him with a foxy mask and constantly left him behind. William watched all of it from his cameras. Kids would be kids. Tomorrow was another day, after all. Except Michael's torment didn't stop. Bitter, angry thoughts would run through Michael's mind. Why did he have to be the one to take care of this whining crybaby all the time? It just wasn't fair. It was time that he got even with his brother by playing the ultimate prank. A prank that just so happened to be on this crying child's birthday. He and his friends would take his scared little brother and make him do the one thing that he was terrified of doing, getting close to the animatronics. That would be embarrassing for the kid that was such an embarrassment to him. His brother squirmed, screamed, kicked, and fought, but just as they were putting that small, squirming boy up to Fredbear's lips, the mouth snapped shut. The sensitive spring locks inside the body had been triggered by the boy's movements, and they'd immediately clamped down. The wriggling stopped. The boy went limp, but it was just a prank. It was meant to be funny. The boy was taken to the hospital and was immediately given an IV. Flowers and pills filled the nightstand next to his hospital bed, but the damage was too severe. He couldn't recover. As the younger brother's consciousness...
Bitch, I was just down there. She's gonna fucking bark. I'm not going back down there.
Began to fade. He could hear
Fuck
Michael's
you.
last words.
Not going down there.
Small and flimsy apology.
Literally just got back.
Williams, through the voice of the Fredbear plush, wrote a firm and committed promise to a dying son. You're broken. I will put you back together. This
he wasn't even there?
would not be the end. No matter what, William's son would live again. It would just take time. Time that, right now, he just didn't have. His young son's heart flatlined. The boy faded into the inky unknown of the afterlife.
Fuck you mean you don't have time?
Oh.
He's dead now.
That's on his end.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, changes started happening around the restaurants. Kids were now required to wear security wristbands to prevent anyone from getting outside without parental permission. Any kid who approached the exit without permission would have to answer to the security puppet, a marionette on strings that could fly around on rails across the restaurant to stop kids in their tracks. It was William's idea, inspired by Michael constantly leaving the restaurant without his brother. In the wake of Fredbear's springlock failure, all the hybrid suits were getting retired, locked away at the nearby Freddy Fazbear location. It was yet another tough pill to swallow after all the hard work that he and Henry had put into them. William would eventually bury the boy's small body in a remote location out in the woods right alongside his drive into and out of work every day. The death of this little boy sent the family spiraling. His wife, crippled with grief, was so distraught that all she could do was sit and watch TV. But his son Michael was far worse, complaining of seeing hallucinations of a golden bear standing outside of his window. The boy was so racked with guilt that he was convinced that he was being haunted by the ghost of his brother stuck inside the...
What was the youngest brother's name? I need to do a catch up here.
Evan? We don't know that for sure, though.
We don't know. His name is Crying Child. Oh, wow. Okay, so William Afton, business is booming. 2 restaurants, TV show, fucking magnets. I mean, what more can you want? Not an attentive parent, but puts up cameras to spy on his kids in weird places around the neighborhood, I guess. spies on his eldest son bullying his youngest son. His eldest son's name is Michael, bullying his youngest son, crying child. And then one day on crying child's birthday, eldest son fucking throws a little prank by putting him in the mouth of an animatronic, and the youngest kid
Don't
is
tell him it's Evan. We don't know that for sure. We found it in the fucking word search, I think. It was like really difficult. MatPat couldn't even figure it out. Someone on fucking Reddit figured it out. Okay? Don't trust people on Reddit to find out the name of someone that MatPat can't figure out. Evan is, you know, speculation at best. We have no idea what his actual name is. No idea.
scared of the animatronics, and the
No idea.
animatronic fucking snaps his fucking neck.
It was like
And then William
a few numbers that I think they used a shift cipher to figure out. So it's like it shifts back and forth like this between letters and numbers. This is probably very unreliable. It could be literally any 4-letter name. It could be Thor, like my middle name, you know? It could be anything. Anything with 4 letters. It could be... I was gonna say Mike. This is Mike. It could be, Mark. It could be... It could be Chris. Who knows?
Afton, almost unfazed,
Fucking knows.
just keeps working.
Could be anything.
He just keeps working. He's like, dude, it's fucking crazy. You're on your deathbed. That's so fucking crazy. I still gotta work though. And then through the teddy bear is like, yo, but I'll actually like totally get revenge for you like one day. Like, I'm so sorry you died though. And then decides to add a security robot and security measures to being murdered. Still not in the picture. They're just fine.
For William himself, Earth, the words "It's me" ringing through Michael's ears.
Mario.
Some nights, Michael would even go so far as to break out of his room to check the gravesite and ensure that his brother was still there. As for William himself, he disappeared into his work and his drinks. Junior's, the local bar, wasn't far from his son's gravesite. He found himself going there more and more frequently, spending longer and longer amounts of time.
We're pretty sure it's not a bar, it's like the junior location to the regular location. Which would be the one with the robots with facial recognition. Which makes sense. Because he would have gotten in trouble for killing the kids already. I think this is technically wrong. That's Wendigoon's one, though. That's the one that chat just got mad at him for.
Bar gave him a place to
not being,
to remember, to reflect and stew on how Henry had stolen his
Sorry.
idea for an animal-themed restaurant. How
You're still on that!
So, yeah. Yeah, I know. He's a genuine snowflake.
Your kid died and you're still on that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Kevin taking the prime. That's crazy.
Bro, fucking move on.
You're at the bar, you're drinking.
I know so many people who do this shit. Move on, man. Nobody fucking cares, Afton.
Your youngest.
Oh, I'm butthurt. Oh, he stole my idea for my business. I'm gonna hold on to that and just keep going over it. Fucking move on, man.
Child died
Jesus
because
Christ.
your eldest child accidentally had it murdered by a fucking animatronic, and you're like, fucking Henry. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He's fucking dumb as
crazy.
shit.
That's crazy.
William Afton is like
crazy
the least
person.
Intelligent character I've ever come across.
Ever. Play Clash Royale.
Like, actually, just like a 99% petty.
It's clashing time, stupid. Baby. Oh, wait,
no brains. Cut his character out of the cartoon when everyone else was there.
I didn't do my laundry today.
How Henry.
So my data got
Who gives a shit?
Literally the same shows just talking about. You do this shit. Don't let shit go. It blows up into a big
by
fucking...
buying-
Now I have to lose my data. I'm 20 years old. I'm a fucking adult. I'm an adult. I'm 20 years old. I'm almost old enough to drink alcohol. I'm like 2 months under drinking age. I have to fucking fold my clothes before I can get my own data turned on. The fuck?
him out
To
of
play
bankruptcy,
fucking
and now
Royal
there
Mat.
was his son. Henry had taken his son from him.
What? Henry took his son. Aren't you the one who wanted to innovate on the
Ridiculous, man.
animatronics and make them partial human, partial fucking robot? With the fucking double hinge or whatever? How is it
robotic part was the part that failed after all. William ordered one more drink, but it was one too many. The bar turned him out and told him to go home. But William didn't go home. Drunk and angry, William raced back to the restaurant to give Henry a piece of his mind, only to find someone else waiting. Henry's daughter, Charlie, locked outside of the building, bullies laughing at her through the window. Fine, some other problem to fix. But then Afton got an idea. A beautifully awful idea. This was his chance to get back at the man that had humiliated him all those years ago.
No, you're not going to kill his daughter because your son died and somehow you've conflated your son's death to be the fault of Henry when it's actually your fault being a negligent parent and allowing your eldest son to raise your youngest child improperly. There's no way that's going to happen.
He had killed his business, and now Henry's robotic suit had killed his son. It was time for William to do some killing of his own. Let Henry feel what it's like to have something
Son of
you
a
love
bitch,
get
he's
ripped
gonna do
away.
it.
Gosh,
While
dude.
parties continued inside the walls of the pizzeria, William attacked
Fucking
Charlie.
face, dude.
It was time for
He's,
William
like,
to do
melting.
some killing of his own. Let
Look at this
Henry
shit.
feel what it's like to have something
Son of
you
a
love
bitch,
get
he's gonna
ripped
do
away.
it.
While parties continued inside the walls of the pizzeria, William attacked Charlie in the back alley. It felt good. He felt free. The years of resentment and bitterness trapped in his heart finally released in a moment of pure unapologetic evil. He would make Henry hurt like he hurts. And in that moment, William became a killer.
This is a
He
fucking
dropped
mad
Charlie's
scientist?
lifeless body and drove home, forced to confront his family problems later that night. Appalled, but
What the
also a
fuck?
little excited by what he had just
Oh.
done. Charlie's death would remain on the books as a random act of violence. And
What
though
the
Henry
fuck?
had suspicions about William, there was no physical evidence. Nothing that could link him back to the crime.
This is crazy. It's so unbelievable that Henry's like, yeah, no, I think my business partner killed.
Aw, man. If only we had security camera footage of these children being brought to the back room by the mascot suit that only he wears.
Killed my daughter, but like, you know, we just got to keep working together, honey. Like, business is booming, you know. It's like, how are you not, if you even had a slight inkling, you're like, just like fucking, you know, move. You got to leave. Violu, thank you the 5 gifted. If you had like an inkling, I mean, I guess maybe you want to stick around and try to pin it on them. That's crazy, though.
In the weeks that followed, Fredbear's Family Diner would close for good. 2 high-profile deaths around the restaurant with 2 grieving owners in such a short period of time was just too much bad press to handle. Besides, Freddy Fazbear's was still open, and it was the newer restaurant anyway. All the equipment from the diner, including the old yellow suits and security puppet, would get retired to that location. And there they would sit for 2 uneventful years. The rest of 1983 and 1984 were spent quietly grieving. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the new cast of characters were a hit. Tragic memories of their yellow predecessors quickly faded. Afton kept a low profile and buried himself in work and research, quickly reaching Henry's level of engineering and even surpassing him. And while Henry slowed down to grieve, Afton kept going, even starting his own company, Afton Robotics, for all those pet projects that were a little bit too experimental for the regular operations of the pizzeria. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras. 1983. A passcode that served as a constant reminder of why the cameras were so...
Sorry, I missed that.
...allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids. Experimental for the regular operations of the pizzeria. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras.
Am I crazy? Why does he give a fuck about monitoring his kids? Why,
I don't know,
why
man.
does he give a shit?
I mean, they're all dead, yeah.
Like, who is he lying to?
Mike.
Clearly, he doesn't give a fuck. Because even when on the monitor, a kid is snapped shut by a robotic bear to the point of death,
Yeah.
he's still like,
Yeah.
I'm busy. So it's like, what? Like, who are we fucking lying to? He doesn't give a shit about his kids.
It's true.
Because one died, he saw it on camera. And you know what he did? He said, "Ah, man, yo, sorry, dude. I'll fucking like try to help you out later on." It did nothing.
True. Very true.
I can buy the logic. He's obsessed with control.
983. A passcode that served as a constant reminder of why the cameras were so important, why he was down there in the first place. This was all to fulfill the promise that he had made to his son, right? I will put you back together. This was for him. All for him, right? But cameras weren't enough. He needed to solve the runaway Michael problem. He had to keep him in the house. He couldn't have another one of his kids wind up dead inside of an animatronic suit. So why not run a little experiment on Michael? You see, all this work with Henry had gotten Afton to start learning more about life, robots, the human mind, and what a fallible machine we as humans were. Our reality is so easy to manipulate with a few sensory deceptions. Deceptions like
Aiden
sound.
Reenan, thank you for
With
joining
just
the
a few
Parasocial
sounds,
Club.
he had discovered that he could alter a person's vision. He could transform blank, smooth plastic robots into lumbering, twisted nightmares. Nightmares far scarier than he could create with actual materials. They would appear organic, rotting, putrid, terrifying. These would be his means of keeping his son Michael in the house where he belonged. Was it extreme? Maybe. But then again, this was the boy who had killed his son.
So the way he's keeping Michael indoors, but just by making like the most horrifying creation ever to like follow him everywhere he's going. Does he know at this time that his son is literally so traumatized by the murder of the youngest son that he sees hallucinations of the animatronics already?
Maybe. It's possible he knows that.
He's literally like, dude, you know that thing that you like hallucinate? Dude, what if I made it? I guess maybe that's what he saw and it wasn't a hallucination. Yeah, that's fair.
He would make him sorry. And so Michael would grow up not only dealing with the memories of his own guilt, the hospital room, the pills, the flowers, the death of his brother, but also facing literal nightmares, illusions created by sound. Michael would never forget these either. Years later, as a security guard, he would still draw pictures of them inside of his logbook. But
Michael was the security guard?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Word of this game.
He's the. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Mind blowing. Mike is Michael. So Michael is Josh Hutcherson. Isn't he Michael? Blind Mask, thank you for the gifted.
In the movie, yeah.
all of these extra projects meant that his home life suffered even more. He was an absent father and a non-existent husband, leaving his wife cold
We
and
think.
alone.
Why do
We're pretty.
you hide inside your walls when
Pause?
there is music in my hall?
The Weeknd goes fucking hard, dude.
All I see is an empty room. No more joy, an empty tomb.
Thank you, James.
And despite
Viking
her repeated
Games.
demands that he leave his office and engage with the family, he refused time and time again, leaving her no choice but to leave.
You burned down my house?
You call that a house? It was like a morgue in there. You need to see your son.
The baby isn't mine.
Well, how's this? I'm keeping the diamond ring.
And through it all, there was one lingering feeling. William wasn't done. He had gotten a taste of what it felt like to be unleashed, what it felt like to be free. Charlie's murder had unlocked something in him.
Why is he purple?
I don't know. That is a very good question.
Why is he purple?
I'm not sure if
He
we're
wanted more. June 26th, 1985. Putting on
actually
the golden
sure
Bonnie suit,
why
he
he's
lured
purple.
children one by one to the back room of the pizzeria.
I thought it
when
was
no
just
one
so that,
looking. At first, he was
you know,
cautious.
because the background of the mini games is that he was first purple in was like black and gray textured. So for him to show up instead of just wearing a security guard outfit that's the color black, it would not blend in with the background. So he's purple. That's why I thought he was purple. I'm pretty sure that's why initially he was purple. But I don't know.
He
I
would
think
lure them
Scott
with
just kept
promises
it.
of cake and cookies. He told them that their
That's
dog
my
had died. He would
understanding.
ask for help with homework. Susie was the first. You never truly forget your first.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
But where to hide the bodies? He couldn't sneak out. Someone would see him. He had to
Put
hide them in
them
a place
in
where
the
they'd never be found and
suits.
where they'd never leave the building. They had to be stuffed inside of the suits. No one maintained those things anyway except for him. And so Susie would go into Chica. Fritz, Jeremy, and Gabriel would come next. But it was easy. It was too easy. And with each little life he snuffed out, his lies got bigger. Their house was burning. They're just being kidnapped. Until the last one where all pretense was off. He let himself get violent. Too violent.
I'll just wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the back of my car.
The body of Cassidy was far more bloody and broken than
Jesus
any of the others.
Christ.
He'd let himself go too far. That one he shouldn't have killed. With no more active animatronics left, he
You know what? You know what? Say what you will about the other murders. Okay, those were fine. But that one, that was too far. Okay? That was. The other ones, it's an oopsie poopsie.
go too far. That one he shouldn't.
That's
have.
crazy.
With no more active animatronics left, he shoved the body into the one suit that remained backstage. The long-forgotten yellow Fredbear, now broken and discolored with age. Broken, like Cassidy was broken.
That was broken because it was discontinued because it murdered his child. Yes.
Like his son was broken. Newspapers reported on this disappearance, naming the whole thing the missing children's incident. Police would even charge William with the crimes after finding security footage of the golden mascot suit luring kids to the back, but they couldn't convict him. They had no bodies, and his face had been hidden behind the mascot suit the entire time. What they had was circumstantial at best, and so he walked away a free man.
Really?
Yep.
Really? Would that hold up? I don't know. I'm not a fucking lawyer, but I feel like if I had video of a guy in a mask who lures children back there, and then every single child lured dies, to be like, Your Honor, anybody could have been wearing the mask. In the 80s and 90s, yeah? We had DNA evidence back then. We did have it. Didn't we?
It's true.
We had it back then.
Pretty
no
sure.
DNA
Yeah.
until 93? Fuck. What did we have before we had
Wait,
DNA?
really?
Just smooth fingers, no prints,
fingerprint?
no DNA. Just the roll of the dice. We didn't even have that shit back then. God damn it.
Really?
That was before we figured out that fucker was a double helix.
Are you sure?
But Henry knew the truth. In these murders, he saw his daughter Charlie all over again. So he threw Afton out of the company and shuttered the doors to the old pizzeria. Henry would keep the franchise quiet for 2 years.
True.
This would not happen again. This could not happen again. How could he protect the kids? Finally, he developed a solution. He would implement an even more extreme security system in the form of new animatronics. Toy animatronics, inspired by the toys that they had been selling years ago. But these guys, these were special. They were a new breed of robot with facial recognition abilities.
But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database, so they can detect a predator a mile away.
All the original animatronics, now withered with age, were moved to the new location. With a plan in place, it was time to try once more. The year was 1987.
I'm sorry. So Henry Emily's like, dude, I think my fucking co-owner is like murdering all these children. What do I do? I'll make a toy. Like, what? Buddy didn't think like, oh, what if I fucking like get him arrested?
That's funny.
Because if he's not around,
I'll
then
make a
the
toy.
kids probably won't die.
It's so funny.
And if you can't get him arrested, be a vigilante. Here's the thing. If I was fucking convinced that Aiden had murdered 5 children, and the police were like, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. And not only 5 children, but more children, one of them mine, I'd fucking take him out, baby. I would take him out vigilante style. I wouldn't be like, let me make a gizmo and a gadget.
And the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was making headlines in local newspapers. Headlines that just so happened to catch the attention of William Afton. Freddy's was back, and without him? That was his idea. His character. Henry was, yet again, trying to cut him out of the picture. No.
That's crazy! That's crazy! You murdered 6 children! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here! How is he still on the... Dude, what? You're doing a Freddy's without me? Like, how is he on that?
That is a
That's crazy. I'm
fair
losing my
question.
mind. This is so annoying. There's a
That
common
is a
phrase called
very
no face,
fair
no
question.
case.
As long as these restaurants stayed open, William would always come back. Then he noticed the...
Yeah, so you know what Henry Emily could have done? Not open the same fucking restaurant where 6 kids were murdered. That would have been a fucking stellar move by him.
phone number to apply at the bottom of the article. $100 a week to apply call. Afton would go back, not as an owner or co-founder. He would go back in the one place that they would least suspect him, a lowly day shift security guard. And there it was, buried in the back of parts and services mixed in with the old withered animatronics was the golden rabbit. With the yellow security badge still on his chest, he used his crank to pull open the spring locks. It was time for Bonnie to give an encore performance.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available.
Yeah.
1987, 5 more kids. He didn't know what felt better, getting back into the...
That's crazy! That's crazy. Henry Emily has to be the dumbest motherfucker I've ever learned about, ever. Like, William Afton's like a psychopath, right? And, like, you
William
know, there's not
Afton.
much sense in trying to, like, you know, condense logically his decision tree into what I would do, because he's a psychopath. Whatever, that's fine. But Henry Emily's just a dumb fucker.
Yeah. He's not wrong.
Like, he reopened the restaurant, and 5 kids are murdered, and he's like, yeah, man. What could we do? You said he was the GOAT? He was the GOAT till he became a dumbass motherfucker.
The suit after 2 long years of waiting, or knowing how devastating this would be to Henry the next morning. He didn't even try to hide his crime this time, just meant more blood on Henry's hands.
Right.
He'd failed to protect the kids
Left him out in the
again.
open.
The restaurant had only been open for a few weeks, but William was sure that this would get it to close. Good, if he couldn't have Freddy's, no one would. Whenever a new pizzeria opened, he would be there. But as he sat in his bunker, something else started to linger in William's mind. He had seen something strange. The old withered animatronics, they had been wandering around the building, spurred on by the puppet. It was almost like those old robots were trying to save the kids. Save them? They couldn't, obviously, but still, how were they moving? It was almost like they had been given life somehow. Did he have something to do with that? The following day, the news would report a security guard getting bitten by one of the animatronics during the day shift. Was that bite meant for him? William?
The bite of 87! I don't know what it means, but it's exciting. This is it, baby. We are fucking learning now.
His curiosity was stronger now than his bloodlust. He had to learn more, but how? There was no way he'd ever be able to get inside another Freddy's Pizzeria. Heck, there was practically no way a Freddy's would ever open again.
Get your son in.
He needed to create something new, something brand new. He needed to create his own pizzeria.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
Circus Baby's Pizza World. This would be the place where he could continue his work. No longer just murdering, experimenting. He needed more kids, and he needed them alive. And knowing that he couldn't show his face on the restaurant floor, he needed a way of remotely capturing his victims and preserving them for his work. With that goal in mind, he designed a new breed of animatronic. Their endoskeletons fluid and flexible. He equipped them with sound lures that could mimic voices. They could isolate children. They could incapacitate and contain them with zero direct input from him. It was brilliant. He was brilliant. Far beyond the simple bars and wires of Henry's designs. And the characters he chose for this were uniquely his. His new roster wasn't going to be tainted by Henry's disgusting barnyard bird. Instead, it was back to his characters, his creations, Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, as well as two special ones. The first, Ballora, was an homage to the woman who left him. Now she would never leave him again. The second, the titular baby, was designed with his baby in mind, Elizabeth, his youngest child. She would always be Daddy's
me too,
little girl,
Ludwig.
the one that listened to
That
him,
was my
the
reaction
one
too.
that obeyed until the day that she didn't.
Daddy, why won't you let me play with her? She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me?
The day before Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, she disobeyed. She didn't listen. Left alone with Baby, she got too close. The animatronic ripped in half and swallowed her whole. Scared.
Dude, what? What? The fuck? I thought his whole thing was like, I'm not gonna murder now. I just want to figure out what's going on with it. What the fuck? It just what? I feel like we kind of glossed over that. We're kind of skipping a bit here. And why is she British? William's British?
Yeah. Yes.
But why are his kids British?
Because he's British.
That doesn't make no damn sense.
Henry's not, though. I don't know.
I get him being British, an immigrant. The dude's got to be old as fuck now, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He was a kid during the Great Depression in the 30s.
Yeah.
So he's born in, like, at the very latest, like, 35. And we're in 87, so he's 52 right now? At least? And his daughter's that old? Or young, I mean? So he's on that Robert De Niro wave, eh? It makes sense that he's British. It doesn't make sense that she's British. Unless he went back to UK to have a kid. I don't think he did that.
It's true.
All right, let's get back to it.
And confused child fading into eternal darkness. By the time Afton found her, it was too late. She was gone. He immediately canceled the launch of Circus Babies under the guise of a gas leak. But wait, as he sat there at the foot of the stage, he noticed that something was different. The eye color of the robot had changed. Baby had been built with blue eyes, but now they were emerald green, the same color as Elizabeth's. Was she in there? Could this all be connected to the free-moving animatronics that he had seen at Freddy's? He had to know more. His mourning turned to excitement. He had to return to where it all started. 1993. Pathetic. This place was pathetic. Henry had clearly tried to reopen one final time with those old original animatronics from so long ago, but
the same voice
damage
line.
to the brand had been permanent. These things stank of death. They hadn't been washed in decades. But even if they had, nothing could wash away the stink of murder that haunted these halls. One night, then another, then another. William repeatedly snuck into the old, broken restaurant to lure the living animatronics to him, one by one dismantling them, robbing them of their endoskeletons. The metal had to be the secret. It had to contain the remnants of life itself. But he had to know for sure. Leaping out of a room that was invisible to the animatronics programming, he dragged the oversized robotic skeletons back to his underground workshop, back to where Circus Baby watched on with glowing, curious eyes. Eyes that somehow felt alive. Not knowing what else to do, William melted the robotic parts down. 5 animatronic endoskeletons reduced down to one silvery puddle of goo. Could he transfer this living metal to his
Fazgoo! Fazgoo, 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 Fazgoo!
own creations? He had to try. He picked up a syringe and filled it with the molten metal and injected the goo into Funtime Freddy's twisted, wiry endoskeleton. And suddenly the coils came to life. Like snakes writhing in a pile, what had once been cold, lifeless metal moved and jolted on its own. He'd done it! He had unlocked the secret to life itself. Except something was clearly wrong. The movements were erratic. They were violent, angry. Baby didn't act this way. She had been calm, collected. This was clearly something else. Something mindless and frantic. Perhaps by mixing the souls and then portioning them out, he had created incomplete beasts. He would need to keep testing to truly understand it. He needed more of this remnant. As he searched the old pizzeria one more time for any remaining scraps of metal, the ghosts attacked. His past victims come to collect their due, all led by Cassidy. The five lined up and blocked the door, and Afton's mind reeled. The scientific implications of this were incredible. Ghosts, real ghosts that he could see, all standing against him. But what could they do? What couldn't they do? He panicked as Cassidy approached. How do you stop something that's already dead? Maybe with the thing that resulted in their death in the first place. He would get into his suit like old times. He would regain his power over them just like the day that they died. He was the genius. He was the one in the suit. He was the one in charge. The spring lock snapped into place. Maybe it was his frantic movements. Maybe it was the leaky abandoned restaurant. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. He didn't know. The only thing he did know was that his brain was suddenly filled with searing white-hot pain as hundreds of metallic pins and gears stabbed into his body from all sides. All he could do was collapse, blood slowly oozing out of...
It is frustrating that this is the third time someone has activated a spring lock to get their head fucking snapped. I get when the kids fell for it. I get that. But the dude who made the device fell for that? Really?
Out of the suit and pooling onto the floor around him. It couldn't end like this. It wouldn't end like this. His work was unfinished. Unable to move, his only option was to survive, to live, to keep living. It took days lying in his own blood, but eventually someone found him. A security guard making a normal report. When he saw the animatronics torn apart in the middle of the party room floor, it caused him to file an immediate report of a break-in. An owner would have to come in and claim the damage. And who else would it be other than Henry? Hope jumped in Afton's heart. Henry would see him. They were partners, after all. He would be the one to help save him, to get him out of this suit, to relieve him from this tremendous pain. Henry entered the secret room. His eyes fell on Afton sitting there in the pool of red, and Henry, saying nothing, turned and walked away.
This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
And so there Afton would sit, hanging on for 30 years, trapped behind the walls with an iron will that refused to die. End of this part. I say this part because it's not officially the end of the Afton era just yet, but this just felt like a really solid stopping point, and the episode has gone on forever.
Whoa, baby! All right, okay, that's a good out. That was a good out. Okay, all right. Depression era. He's like, goes back
forward.
Children to put back of more remnant. Except there was one thing that he didn't account for. His daughter's curiosity. He made the robots too appealing, and it would cost him Elizabeth's life. Now with 2 children to put back together, Afton was more desperate and crazed than ever, returning to defunct pizzerias to steal the possessed metal still living inside their walls. What he didn't account for, though, were the ghosts, forcing him to pay for the sins of his past. When last we left him, William was spring-locked, bleeding to death behind a secret wall. Gone, but certainly not forgotten, as we're about to see in today's video. Today we're finishing up Chapter 2 of our story, wrapping up the Afton era. Over the next 6 pages, we switch our focus to the other main character of the franchise, Mike, a young boy dealing with the fallout of a stupid childhood decision with tragic consequences. A young man whose life is best described as collateral damage, caught in the blast radius of William's whirlwind of destruction. Now, before we begin, let me just rip off the band-aid now. We won't be finishing the timeline today. I know. I'm sorry, I wanted to, but covering FNaF VR, AR, and Security Breach wound up taking me an additional 9 pages of script. And I've already made you wait long enough for this part, so I just had to make the executive call to break this one up into 2. Don't worry, that part is already written, it is already recorded, it is just in the process of being edited. It is a hefty episode. So mark it on your calendar, that one's actually going to be going live on March 25th. It's also coming complete with a live talkback where we go back over everything from the past couple episodes, as well as having ourselves some very special guests. So overall, that one should be a lot of fun. Fair warning though, the conclusions we've reached that solve Security Breach, they are controversial. I feel good about them. Like, I think that we've locked in on a lot of the answers.
I gotta go pee-pee. I gotta go pee-pee. I gotta go pee-pee. I gotta go pee-pee.
There's one thing Michael knew about his father, it was that he had contingencies, safety checks, backup plans. His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest, and as such, William had prepared him in the event that something like this ever happened. Normally, his father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. He never fully understood how William was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here. There was just nothing to do. Most of this place was empty. He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed a giant industrial elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But that was impossible. Hidden inside his childhood home was a secret entrance to an enormous underground science lair? It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet, here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor.
That's huge. That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Michael's dumb as fuck. No offense. Dad, why are there construction workers outside? No, it's the neighbors. What?
Plan of the house that he'd grown up in, lost his brother in, been tortured in. Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger
Robert,
this
thinking the
entire
membership?
time. His father had secrets. Suddenly, the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals? The Circus Baby restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for father. A failure of his that cut unusually
Poor
deep,
father.
especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks.
Ew,
After that day, father really did
don't
seem
say
to
it like
change,
that.
to lose himself even more in his work. Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required crawling through vents to navigate. His father had been working here, but in secret. Why? And that's when he found her. At the end of the facility, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. Except something was different about her. She wasn't like the others. The way she talked, the stories she told. This wasn't just a robot. She was alive somehow. And not only was she alive, she also felt familiar.
There is something bad inside of me. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this his sister? William's baby girl? But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his father collecting and experimenting on kids? Were all the rumors that he'd heard throughout his past actually true? That the animatronics came to life at night? That there were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood. Had he been experimented on too?
He knows his sister's dead, right? Does he not know how she died? Like,
I don't think so,
how
no.
brief did William keep this shit? Dude, she's fucking gone. I don't know where she is. Alright.
Tears stung in his eyes as anger,
I don't know
fear, and
where she
confusion
is.
filled his body. His father's secrets were pouring out. William
I
wasn't just
bet.
a lame, overworked
I-
father. He was a
What do you mean, Dad? I
monster
thought she
toying
was in
with
heaven.
life itself.
It's true, he
Suddenly,
was.
everything
Oh,
clicked.
yeah.
He frantically looked
Yeah,
around the
for
room,
sure.
blinking human heads on poles,
Yeah.
staring back at him. Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring expectantly. These were meant to be human. William was working down here trying to make believable humans, literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. The small little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
Hello in there.
Ew.
Is this the same person?
Were those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was William building clones of his sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
Why is he British?
Fair question.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. I know I've been stuck on this, but it literally makes no sense at all. They have lived in America for the entirety of their lives.
They were all there. They didn't recognize
It doesn't make any damn sense.
They thought I was you. And I found her. I
They're
put
maybe
her back
homeschooled?
together.
Pause.
She's free now.
Do you think homeschooled kids don't interact with other
There's
humans
something
in America?
wrong inside me. I should be dead.
We literally
But
saw a
I'm
scene
not.
where Mike was hanging out with his
I've
other
been
friends.
living in shadows.
Do you know how much you would get
There's
fucking
only
clowned
one
if you were
thing
hanging out with
left
your friends in
for me
America and
to
you spoke
do.
in a British accent and you were from America?
I'm going to come find
You would not have had friends.
I'm going to come.
Alright, back to it. It is a minor point, but it is pissing me off.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's mind reeled as the reality of his world crumbled to dust. No, he had to get them out of there. If this really was his sister, heck, if any of these things were human, souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the
There's
voice of
nowhere to
Circus Baby,
go
he
when
marched
we
through the
look
now
like
empty
this.
halls of the Funtime
But if we
Auditorium.
look
He would
like
lead
you,
them. He would protect them. And
then we
finally, he would be able
could
to forgive
hide.
himself for the
If we
killing of
looked
his
like
brother
you,
so
we would
many
have
years.
somewhere to go.
You are in the scooping room now.
What the fuck is a scooping?
The scooper only hurts for a moment.
What's getting scooped?
Scooper? That violent extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become increasingly sophisticated, with a mechanized arm that could infuse new bodies with a soul. William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies. But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was about to learn.
But if we looked like you, then we could hide. If we looked like you,
We
then
would have
we would have somewhere to go.
Michael was going to be the hero to help these animatronics, all right. He was going to help the haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape, just not in the way that he anticipated. His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body. As he heard his bones ripping through his flesh, Michael blacked out.
But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not.
For the next several months, Michael's life was not his own. He was forced to comply with the tangle of wires and spirits that lived inside of him. His body felt like an overfilled balloon begging to burst as day by day, week by week, his flesh began to sag and discolor. He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse, alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but by that point, the damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had killed and captured dozens. His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout all his childhood. He was actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there somewhere.
I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct for the sins of his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple?
Yeah, that's fair.
Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct pizzeria locations. That way, no one ever had to see him or smell him during his shift.
Dude, what? Yeah, this guy who's applying. He wants to be like a night guard. No, we did like a Zoom call. He's fucking purple, but I think it's fine. Like what? What job are you getting hired without even like seeing anyone? I guess that's the least crazy part about this.
And all these old shuttered locations
I didn't even think the place was open. How are they hiring?
did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to
To be
work an
fair, it
overnight
is like the
graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options.
1980s,
so they're hiring.
90s?
It's not. Is it open or is it not open?
Yeah.
That's what I can't
Times
tell.
are different, I guess.
Enter Mike. One by one, he would take on the job of security guard, changing his name each time to ensure that no one was able to follow his paper trail. Once inside, he could tamper with the animatronics and figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his security logbook.
So it's not open. He's just a security guard to stop vandals. For some reason.
There, he would listen to the old tapes where upper management awkwardly welcomed new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from the outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the suit, as if two spirits were forced to share
What the
same
fuck
body.
is that face
Golden
he's
Freddy would
making,
attack
dude?
him now. It was aggressive. Its
Oh.
vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts. And each time at the end of his week shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away whatever spirit-laden animatronics that still existed inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His dreams were oddly mixed with the shrill phone calls of the security guard.
I'm just shocked that like they keep hiring the security guard who just commits arson and burns the place down, and then they're like, yeah, we got this new guy, and then the place burns down in a week again, and they're like, yeah, we got this new guy, and it's like, you know, obviously you got to suspend disbelief a bit. The logistics of it all are just throwing me off. I know he uses a different name. It just, you know, I would start to get suspicious when my second location catches on fire.
But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV. Fazbear Frights, a new horror attraction inspired by the awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless, he had to be a part of it. If this team was combing through his family's history, they might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there would be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe finally, this could be the final chapter in his family's marathon of tragedy. Mike applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys. Years of doing this had taught him that security guards rarely receive thorough security checks. They also liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job. What little they knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing. But just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be him? Sure enough, there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie springlock suit, only now it was green and decaying with age. And there they were, a small family of broken men finally reunited. It's been a long time, Dad. Mike had always struggled with the phantoms of his past haunting him, but now all the animatronics he'd encountered over the past months, hopping from pizzeria to pizzeria, suddenly sprang to life, their burned faces haunting him as he tried to keep track of his father on the cameras. It would seem that William's mere presence had put the spirits on high alert. Ultimately, they were harmless, more annoying than anything else, but there was one that felt different from the others.
The gold
one
bear.
that was
No,
more than just
Fred
a mere
Bear. Fred Bear.
phantom.
Fred Bear.
The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through
All
the
right.
halls. He could even see its reflection in the water pooled on the ground. It would seem like he wasn't the only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place, finally setting them to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished. Except, it was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will, Afton remained. He had survived, and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily, the solution would present itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee. Restaurant ownership and management. Something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success. You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand had been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise around the time of his father's disappearance. Something was up. Surely this had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job. There was just one thing out of the ordinary. Paragraph 4.
If you are playing this tape, that means that not only have you been checking outside at the end of every shift, as you were instructed to do, but also that you have found something that meets the criteria of your special obligations under paragraph 4.
No,
dude, it's crazy he's purple. I'm sorry. It's crazy he's like purple and like basically undying or like an undead. And he's just purple. And he's just like, yeah, I'm purple. I've been purple for like a decade and I've worked at like 8 different Freddy's. Like, he's just and he's got no bones. It's so weird.
Employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew this wasn't meant to be a restaurant. It was meant to be a prison, a containment vessel, a locked box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his body, and his sister, now hopeless. Father, the puppet, the robot spaghetti that had once violated his body, and
What a sentence. What a sentence. The robot spaghetti that violated his body.
This is kind of funny.
The fucking robot spaghetti. The Fazgoo. That's crazy. Okay. And they just showed up?
Vanessa.
Because I guess, okay.
I got my Freddy
What we found out, look, is that, like, although we're watching this story unfold from the perspective of the Aftons, there's presumably a different story
That's
being
my Freddy
written from the
Fazgoo.
perspective of the murdered children, and they still are stuck in these robotic bodies with some level of consciousness. So they have their own. That's why they're fucking Oas in this bitch. What I'm a little confused by is the security doll. Like, why does that thing have like a consciousness? Thank you, Matthew Jones, for being a member. Like, where is that? Why is that from? Is that should I not know yet? Oh, that's Charlie. I didn't think Charlie was put in anything. I thought Charlie's daughter, or Henry's daughter, was just killed outside and just left there.
and his sister, now
Well,
hopelessly
Galaga
devoted to
type
serve the man that had
games.
once gotten her killed. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where
This
your story
goddamn
ends.
boss,
And to you,
dude.
my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
And with that,
Ooh,
it
what
was
a
over.
bar.
The Afton legacy died with all of them trapped inside of a literal box. As the flames danced around the office, Mike, for the first time in decades, was happy. But William wasn't gone yet. Although the darkest pit of hell was open and waiting.
Oh, fucking William's just like persisting. They've burned down 2 restaurants now to kill him, and you're just like, you know what? I willed me to still be here. Like, what?
For him, something or someone wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. The pizzeria, his son's room, his underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded, mixing and matching all his biggest fears, regrets, failures. What was this place? How did he get here? He called out into the silence. Then they started coming. Without warning, animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was immeasurable. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the first time, longed for death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been
Thank you,
reset.
Chips.
There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past
I'll watch
all
the speech,
focused on
Goopy.
him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain, more ripping. It was his own
So this is just a game, right? I'm
Yep.
assuming. So like sometimes I feel like, oh, that's lore, and then sometimes I feel like a game was made, and you have to make it make sense in the lore. And this is one of those times where I feel like there was just a game called, I guess, Ultimate Custom Night, where William Afton is getting like especially fucked on by every single doll to ever be made, and then you have to like make that make sense in the lore. And I know it's both, but like it seems more clearly an explanation of the game as opposed to some other things. Not to say it doesn't make sense in the lore, but like the game is literally just there to fucking, yeah.
Personal hell, but why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw them, a group of characters he never thought he'd see again. Those janky, stolen characters that had started everything. The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
That voice. He knew that voice, but from where?
Greetings from the fire, and from the one you should not have killed.
The one he shouldn't have killed.
Cassidy.
William thought back. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his
Cassidy.
first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with.
Cassidy.
The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden
Cassidy.
bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back, and now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But
So he always comes back because Cassidy wills it, because Cassidy wants perma revenge. Okay, great.
Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, they actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong, his soul so powerful that he managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And there, his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free. A person that no one would suspect. Okay, so a bit of a short...
Whoa.
His consciousness lay inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free. A person that no one would suspect. Okay, so a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important...
Okay. Next, final one. This is our final lore dump. Okay, all right. You know, before we watch the final lore dump, I'm actually going to take a quick break to watch Henry Emily speech.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped.
I was just imagining being like, just like a motherfucker who lives in the town where Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is like established, and then like every 5 years a new place is like in the news, like, yeah, new Freddy Fazbear opening up, and you're like, again?
Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away.
So, Henry Emily made this place. He made the franchising thing because he wanted to end it all. It's unclear when I guess he learned about the existence of the Remnant when he went into the place and saw William Afton's bloody body inside of the Golden Bunny. I guess at that point he was like, oh, fuck. And then after another establishment was made and more death happened, he was like, oh, fuck, I gotta stop this. Okay, that makes sense. He must be old as shit here then. He must be like 70 fucking years old.
As the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now.
But what the fuck is going on here?
It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have cared. Buried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Just my fucking stream. Okay, alright. Alright, back to it.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory.
Okay, I'm
and
here.
the final part of my FNaF timeline, where today we're bringing our story to a close by talking about the most complicated and controversial part of the timeline, the part that I've been dreading most of all, the end. The moment where we're finally forced to come to some definitive and difficult answers, trying to explain what the heck we were watching.
Are we at the end? Is that right? Is that real? Thank you, Lone Kaze, for the
Thanks,
21 months.
Blocker.
I feel like this shit like Naruto can never end.
In Security Breach. The last two episodes have been about death. The death of Afton's family, the deaths of multiple children, the death of the franchise itself as Mike and Henry figuratively and literally burn it all down. Today's episode, though, and the current end of this franchise, is instead all about rebirth. The return of old characters in new forms, and the controversial rebirth of a franchise entering the next era of its story. But before we hop into the timeline, due to scheduling conflicts, I won't be able to have any live talk back after this episode. I know, I promised
What
one,
the
I was really excited about it, but I
fuck?
just couldn't make it work with my schedule and all the other guests' schedules. That said, I still do plan on doing one over the coming weeks with special guests.
Okay.
Just make sure that you're subscribed and
This
either
was
have
11
all
months ago.
notifications turned on, or you're just watching our community tab for the announcement
It
as to
was.
when that's gonna happen. And now, without any further ado, we finally reach the end and a new beginning to our story.
Post-purple guy.
Fazbear Entertainment was dead.
There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
All debts had been paid, all assets redistributed. The company was outright dissolved. Even the memories of the horrors that had happened there started to fade away in the public consciousness. The people were gone too. William was dead. Henry was gone. A whole generation of young Emilys and Aftons had lost their lives to the horrors of the pizzeria. All of them collateral damage to the man in the bunny suit. Everyone the company had ever touched was dead and gone. Well, all except one.
Pay your
William
child
Afton.
support, you deadbeats! I'm keeping the diamond ring. I also set the house on fire.
Clara Afton. She'd been there in
Oh.
the early days, back when things with William were
Clara.
good. They'd had the perfect home, a thriving business, the ideal family. But shortly after their youngest son died, things
Ethical reactor. Respectfully, Kalinka, I am friends with Matt Pat, and he gave me permission. Okay? So you don't have to be so freaking, like, passive-aggressive. You can just say how you feel. You know? People will think you're cooler for it. I would, personally.
Yeah.
Jeez.
to change. William had become distant, lost in his work, obsessive. She had watched him
feel that.
change from this irritatingly brilliant man that she had fallen in love with to a drunken monster struggling to hold himself together. And despite her trying to reach out to him in those desperate days, he was just too far gone.
Why do you hide inside your wall when there's music in my home? All I see is an empty room.
I love The Weeknd.
No
No.
more joy of an empty tomb.
Admit it, you wanted to let me in.
For her sake, she had to leave the relationship, and from there she largely faded into obscurity. A mystery from William's past, a footnote in his history, and that was fine for her. She wanted to leave that part of her life behind. She tried to move forward, never wanting to hear the name Freddy Fazbear again. A time defined by...
This part's been mostly debunked. Thank you, Lena. I appreciate your insight. I will not watch it because of that. I will continue to watch it and then maybe look at new information. But in my opinion, better to be learning and then relearning than not learning at all.
by mistakes and broken promises. But then, the paperwork started to arrive. As Fazbear Entertainment began to close as a corporate entity, suddenly her mail was flooded with notifications, requests, obligations. She had been there since the beginning, helping William in the early days of his business, and now, as a shareholder and sole living member of the Afton family, all copyrights and trademarks of both Afton Robotics and Fazbear Entertainment passed on to her. Memories of this past life that she had long left behind. Looking at the blueprints, the contracts, the memos, she felt old wounds begin to reopen. The regrets of a happy family that had been torn away from her. William had always been brilliant. That's what had attracted her to him in the first place. But he'd also been too blinded by
That's crazy, because William was actually the dumbest motherfucker early on. He was actually stupid as shit. He just liked bears. That was literally his whole character, is he liked bear. That he was actually the dumbest motherfucker till Henry Emily was like, yo, you can make a robot, and then became kind of smart.
Pride. He was too jealous, too petty, too unable to actually see a bigger picture. But now, holding the paperwork that contained decades of heartbreak and trauma, she realized it was her turn. She was holding the power. This was her chance. And one thought resonated in her head. I will put them back together. I will put them all back together. She would be the one to rebuild this family, to rebuild the pieces of that shattered life, to reclaim the kids that Fazbear had stolen from her. But how? Looking at William's work now laid out before her, she knew that he had been onto something, collecting remnant, robotic humanoids, digital conscience transference. The pieces were all in place. They were just scattered, fragmented. It was almost like there were too many ideas going in too many different directions. It was such an important idea that she reiterated that point to herself. There were too many ideas going in too many different directions. That said, there had to be a way to save it all. She just needed to put it all back together. But how? To rebuild her family, she would first need to rebuild the franchise that had stolen them away from her. With ownership over the characters, their licenses, the technology patents, and the Fazbear name, she converted the corporation back to an LLC, a structure for smaller businesses that are usually...
I love when the lore gets into the nitty-gritty of corporations and how they're registered. An LLC, eh? No longer an S-corp.
family owned. The irony was fitting. From there, she would need remnant, and lots of it. Remnant was the key. Clearly, in the later years of his life, William had been using Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals as a remnant farm, sending robots to kids' birthday parties in the hopes of nabbing bits of the stuff here and there. But clearly, it wasn't enough. He had, what, like 4, maybe 5 animatronics going out every week? No. It was a decent idea, but to get the remnant they required, it needed scale. Dozens, hundreds of animatronics, all out there, all gathering remnant from unsuspecting affecting customers. But to do that would require help, something William would never ask for. William had kept everything in-house. His obsession with control limited him. Clara, though, she wasn't nearly that precious. A plan like this required partners, people outside of Fazbear to do the heavy lifting. So she contacted a mid-sized delivery company, DLZ Shipping Solutions, to help build replicas of all the original animatronics. And with meal delivery apps being all the rage, why not an animatronic delivery service? Order one to celebrate your birthday, your Halloween party. How about a 4th of July picnic? We'll invite Liberty Chica and 4th of July Freddy on over. She would make sure that they made skins for every occasion. Chocolate Bonnies for Easter, Shamrock Freddies for St. Patrick's Day, Dia de los Muertos Chicas. And thus, the Fazbear Funtime service was born.
That's right. With the Fazbear Funtime service, you'll never be alone again. You'll always have someone watching your back.
Was it ridiculous? Ridiculous? Absolutely. Was it a sellout?
He's in the universe?
No doubt. It was exactly the sort of thing that William would have hated, but it needed to be done to get enough remnant. Normally, the novelty of ordering an animatronic wore off after like, what, 1, maybe 2 times? But with new skins for new holidays, suddenly you had yourself an animatronic perfect for every occasion. It would keep people hooked. It would keep them ordering the latest and greatest that Fazbear Entertainment LLC had to offer. And all the while, they'd be collecting and returning the remnant back to her.
How are they collecting the remnant? Via murder? So they're just murdering a bunch of people?
I guess.
Is she not like... I didn't think she was a psychopath. But all of a sudden she's a psychopath now?
Word, it was brilliant. There was just one problem with it.
Thank
no
you,
one
JD,
trusted
for the upgrade.
Fazbear name. The company's brand was still mud in the public eye. No one would want to hire animatronics from the restaurant franchise known for murdering children. Nothing kills a party
Thank you,
quite
Gwen,
like
for being a
the threat
member.
of death, you know. So she needed to find a way to discredit the stories that had come before.
How do you
she
do
needed
that?
to win back the public's affections, reactivate
Misinformation
some nostalgia
campaign.
for the spooky stories of their childhoods. She needed a game. Multiple games, in fact.
They lied to us. They lied to all of us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's not true at all. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up.
Struggling game developers were a dime a dozen online, most working on their magnum opus between shifts at the Dollar General. So she found one. Steve just picked him out of obscurity. The right mix of desperate and doofus.
Literally just Scott Cawthon. Yeah.
Is that the actual game dev?
Yeah.
Did he put himself in the fucking game?
I literally talked about this at the beginning of my stream.
He put himself in the fucking lore?
That's him.
Bucks.
Yeah.
He fell right in line, as expected, delivering stupid little things with dumb generic names like Mangle's Quest, Balloon Boy's Air Adventure, Five Nights at Freddy's. Bad gameplay with even worse graphics, but hey, they got the job done. People were suddenly talking about the clues inside of these things, searching for the hidden lore. They were actively making jokes about dead kids at pizzerias. Her husband's twisted history of serial murder had suddenly been reduced to a mere Nancy Drew mystery to be solved. The plan had worked. Freddy Fazbear's was suddenly more popular than ever. Things were going shockingly well. Her takeover and reboot of the franchise was full and complete. Suddenly infused with cash, she built the largest, most ambitious project yet, the Mega Pizzaplex. William had always been so visionary, but always thought so small scale. He was careful to a fault. Not her, though. She knew that this latest project needed to be big. It needed to be flashy. It needed to be a palace for children. A place that got people talking and checking out the latest in Fazbear products. So with a steady supply of remnant flowing in,
Vegas
it was
Casino.
finally time. The stage was set. It was time to get to her real goal,
Casino.
literally rebuilding a family. March 2035.
2035? What is she, 100? Hold up. What? Her husband was born in the 30s. How fucking old is she? He must have married young.
First was obvious. The crying child, her little boy, the one that was the first to get ripped away from her. She'd seen down in his bunker that William had gotten very close to replicating artificial humans using animatronic technology. And so that's exactly what she would do. Rebuild her boy from the ground up using robotic parts.
She knows how to make fucking robots now. Okay.
shaggy brown hair, his favorite striped shirt, even down to small details that no one would notice, like the band-aid on his left knee. Williams' research had even found ways of making animatronics that could bleed and process food, making them virtually indistinguishable from a typical human. He would never have any idea of what he actually was unless he was explicitly told. The only things that could possibly ruin the illusion were any overrides to his internal systems. If something were to, say, interfere with the cameras that he had in his eyes, or cause some sort of a core reboot to his hard drive, or x-ray his metallic bones, then yeah, he would be exposed. But otherwise, to the outside world,
you
he was
cannot
just
fly.
your typical, normal human boy. She worked down in the bowels of the Pizzaplex, giving him life, but it was one thing to build him, it was another to help him remember his identity. He died so young, so early in their history that there was no...
He died literally 50 years before then, in the 80s. Even if you put a spirit inside of him, he's going to come out and just start saying slurs. Like, how is it supposed to work?
True.
It doesn't make any damn sense. He's going to see an iPhone and kill himself. I don't know. Just... Everyone in 2035 is going to be like, whoa. Your kid is problematic.
Preserved memories for him. No documentation that she could just download into his digital brain. So bit by bit, she trained him, forcing him to remember who he was. In a corner of the room, she even made a makeshift dinner table, a reminder of their happier days. The family recreated 2 brothers, a sister, a father, and the mother at the head of the table. Wow. The one in charge, the one in command, the one bringing all of this to fruition. But his progress was admittedly slower than she would have liked. At first, he could only communicate through simple ones and zeros, then rudimentary drawings and crude letters.
Yum.
But bit by bit, images of his past life started to come through. Balloons, colors, houses, bears and faces, birthday parties. All for me. Gregory was alive. As the robot boy embraced her,
his name's fucking Gregory?
She felt a warmth that she hadn't in decades. This was the joy that she'd been working towards. This was what it was all for. Her son, back in her arms again. The plan was working. She had to keep going. Next was William. If the family was truly going to be put together, she would need him. And she knew exactly where he was. In the ruins of that old Freddy Fazbear's pizza place where Henry had trapped him. In fact, that's specifically why she insisted on building the Pizzaplex there over the sinkhole. It was the best place to hide what her true intentions were with the entire operation. Digging through the wreckage, she found him. He was right where she thought he'd be. Seeing the putrid shell of the Springtrap suit, though, was not something she was prepared for. The rotting corpse of William Afton was disgusting. Scorched flesh fused into the fur lining. Hollow black sockets where eyes once were. A smell that reeked of burned carbon and bloody iron. He was no longer flesh. It was just the tangled sinews of a creature that was once called human. How far this brilliant man had fallen. It was clear that her work was cut out for her on this one. Afton was practically lifeless. The man may not have been able to die, but he was about as close as you could come. And his body would need a lot of reconstruction. Replacement arms and endoskeleton reinforcements were the top priority. Maybe pulled from their new line of glam rock animatronics. She'd have to see if they had any spare Bonnie parts lying around that they could steal. In the meantime, though, she threw the husk that was once her husband into a life support pod infused with aerosolized remnant to help keep him stable. But more important than recovering his body was recovering his mind. In his current state, he was comatose, an empty shell. Severe brain damage starts at temperatures over 108 degrees Fahrenheit.
The guy has to be mewing. Look at the jaw.
42 degrees Celsius, and years of repeated fires had burned his brain to goo. Gone was the brilliant, frustrating mind that had drawn her to him in the first place. But she had a plan. Unlike her darling boy Gregory, Afton had found ways to record his consciousness. Fundamentally, the brain is only a series of electrical connections after all, so why couldn't you replicate that in the form of a standard circuit board? In essence, you could create a digital consciousness. And one thing she knew about William, he was nothing if not cautious. A planner. Someone who had backup plans to his backup plans. And sure enough, there it was. Buried in piles of old animatronic CPUs, a record of Afton himself. But
thank you, Al, for the 5.
To test it.
Someone was
Casimir
definitely
for the 26.
here during the night. It had to have been the client. I mean, they sent us that stuff in the first place with no explanation, told us to scan it, said it would expedite the process so we wouldn't need to program any pathfinding ourselves.
Unlike the other games that she'd paid to have made in the past, this one had a different purpose. This wasn't about PR, it was about getting William back up and running, spreading his virus to the masses.
You acknowledge that Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transference, real-world manifestations of digital characters.
She hired a new developer, Silver Parasol Games,
Thank you,
to scan
TMD.
the boards and bring her husband into the system. And because of the immersive nature of VR, William's consciousness would be able to merge with the player, giving him a new body, a new agency.
Oh my god. It's too much. Alright. I just gotta fucking hunker down. I gotta hunker down, okay? It is getting messy, is what I feel like right now. It's getting sloppy. It's getting very sloppy.
There was just one complication. Afton's hold wasn't as powerful as she had hoped. He wasn't able to gain complete control. The first trial run, Jeremy, was so desperate to escape from his grasp that he sliced his own face off with a paper shredder. Messy. Afton's followers were reluctant, to say the least. But it was the second attempt that looked like it had the potential to kill two birds with one stone. Enter Vanessa. Mrs. Afton wanted a surrogate daughter. Her darling Elizabeth would have been a young woman at this point if she had lived. And Clara wanted someone who wasn't Elizabeth but could be just like her. Could she have just rebuilt her like Gregory? Sure, but she decided against it because she wanted an actual human mother-daughter connection. Well, that, and it would be redundant and narratively unsatisfying to have two robot kids in the same family. What could she say? William had put a lot of tools on the table for her to use, and she was planning on using them all. Plus, Elizabeth had always been so loyal to Daddy. It was time to give her a second chance, a true choice. And Vanessa seemed to be the perfect candidate to fill the role.
Your dad's name was Bill. Your dad didn't play fair, did he?
Ah,
He
she's
used to make
British.
your mum
Convenient,
look
because the
bad
children
in
are
court.
weirdly
She
British.
manipulated you. I know your mum after she lost the custody case. I was supposed to be a good girl.
She started as a QA tester at Silver Parasol Games, the VR game development company that was part of her plan to bring back William. But more importantly, Vanessa checked all the correct boxes. Right age, blonde, green eyes with a fondness for flowers and the outdoors. In many ways, it was her daughter all over again. Except it wasn't just looks and personality. What really mattered was Vanessa's mind. Underconfident, coming from a broken home, motherless, able to be manipulated. Yes,
Jesus.
She would do
She had her brain
She would be the one to save
reprogrammed
dear
by
old Daddy, just
the
as the
VR
real
game.
Elizabeth would have wanted.
I will make you
It's
proud,
crazy.
Daddy.
While testing the VR game, William's digital
hate that line.
consciousness merged with Vanessa. Oh sure, she
Everyone
fought,
does,
fragmenting
actually.
Afton's code into a series of tapes
You're not
hidden
the only
across the
one.
game, trying to do web searches to regain control over her life, but it wasn't enough. She was weaker than Jeremy. She was a thrall that, despite occasional moments of lucidity, had to obey. And with Vanessa, it was a 2-for-1 deal. She was getting a daughter back, while also bringing her husband one step closer to reactivation. She just had to make sure that Vanessa was headed the right way. The reborn Gregory was an expert hacker, part of the benefits of being an Afton and a robot.
Sorry, he was drawing fucking pizza going yum, and now he's a perfect hacker?
So Clara had him keeping tabs on Vanessa, hacking into her emails and trailing her therapy sessions to ensure the future Elizabeth was falling in line. If any of the therapists started to ask too many questions, they were promptly dismissed from their positions. And while Gregory kept tabs on Vanessa's personal life, Mrs. Afton made sure to clear a path for her professionally. With Silver Parasol's collapse at the hands of the Anomaly, she then had the possessed Vanessa bring the contaminated circuit boards to DLZ shipping and the Fazbear Funtime service. More glitches, more Remnant, more Afton. But it was her last move that was the best. In a true masterpiece of poetry, she brought Vanessa over to be Chief Security Officer at the Pizzaplex. A true family tradition to don the hat and badge, and all it took was a recommendation from the top as well as some emails marked for deletion. Sure, Vanessa didn't have relevant experience for the job, but when it comes directly from the CEO, does it really matter? Husband, son, daughter. A corpse, a robot, a human. All that was left was Michael. Poor
Mike!
Michael. The boy that killed her youngest. The one that would spend years trying to make his guilty conscience right again. A self-professed protector. While she knew she needed him to complete the family, something told her that the problem had already solved itself. Something had shifted when using Glamrock Freddy to excavate the buried pizza place.
I have been here before. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I have changed. My friends are here, but I can protect you. I am not me.
Maybe it was the remnant that had coursed through Michael's veins. Maybe it was the spirit of Michael living on as a protector. But he was there, somewhere inside of Glamrock Freddy. She could feel it. And just like that, she'd won. She'd done it.
So she didn't do anything for Michael. She just kind of tripped into Michael by accident. Glamrock Freddy was just like kind of like Michael, and she's like, "Yo, wait, no, Michael's good. Actually, we don't have to do that one. We can skip it. Okay, that's great."
There's still some kinks to work out, some final brainwashing of Vanessa, some rehabilitation of William, but they were there. Finally, all together again under one
Wow,
roof,
so
the Aftons
cute.
reunited.